basically pushing forward. This is a very much not an arm exercise, it's like a core and body type thing. And so by putting her knees close to the patient, she's getting directly over it and getting that position she needs. She also has her knees about a shoulder width apart. That gives her a good strong base, because if they were like this, trying to do this, you're not as strong. Her hands, she has clasped like this, so it doesn't really matter which hand you have on the bottom if one is more comfortable to you. The point of this is that you're creating a triangle. Triangles, are very stable structures. You're not using the entire hand to do CPR. You're using the bottom palm, whichever it is, that rear part of your palm right here. The placement is going to be on the sternum, which is the flat bone in your chest, the ribs attached to it. And it's not going to be too low, down here kind of on the tip and near the belly, and you don't want it too high. You basically want it in between the nipple line, dead center of the chest. When she does the compressions, they need to be hard and fast. And what I mean by that is they need to compress to a depth of about at least 2 inches. These mannequins click to try to get you like sort of audio cue, like this is right, this is correct. They also need to fully recoil. So the heart is a pump. If she basically just pushed down, didn't come all the way back up and kept pushing, it's a pump, right? It passively fills when it's not beating. It needs to passively refill, and so if it's just always in a squeeze position, it's not filling and the output is not good. So you need to go down 2 inches, allow for full recoil, and the speed is important too. You don't want to go too slow, and you also don't want to go too fast. The speed you're looking at is about 100 to 120 beats a minute. So that whole Staying Alive, Bee Gees thing, that's why they use it, because the beat of the song, as well as the message, they work together well, okay? So it's Staying Alive, Staying Alive. That's about 100. That's about the lowest you would want to do. You can do about 20 beats a minute more. So now that you have help on the way, generally what you would do is you would either apply the AED, I'm getting ahead of myself. After 30 compressions, there's a ratio that you'll do, and it's going to be 30 compressions to 2 ventilations. So the same technique that we talked about before with the pocket mask. If you don't have one, we'll talk about mouth to mouth, just how you would do it. But basically you would open the airway with the head tilt chin lift. You will sort of pinch off the nose, because that's an alternative location air could escape. Then you hit complete seal with your mouth on their mouth. Look at their chest. Exhale until you see chest rise, then stop exhaling. And then take a breath for yourself, and then deliver another breath. So in the event that they had a pulse and they weren't breathing, you can do that once every 6 seconds. For this, you're only doing 2. So it'll be 30 to 2. And you will basically continue that indefinitely until some criteria have been met that I'll go over in a moment. So 30 compressions, 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Can you do that part for me? Yeah. Don't do the whole 30, just start at 25. Loud.
25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30.
And breathe. Back on the chest. The AED, if you had one, it tends to do it in about 5 cycles, so 30 to 2 5 times, which is about 2 minutes. If you don't have an AED, you don't need to time it or anything. You're basically going to continue doing CPR until one of these conditions are met. If your patient is revived and they wake up or show purposeful movement, or they're breathing on their own, or that would be great. You can stop and you can reassess just from the start. Open the airway, look, do they have a pulse? Are they breathing? You basically start over again. So that is great. That's what we want. That is rare. For it to happen only with CPR alone, especially without AED, that is a less common thing to happen. But that's the best case scenario. You don't need to do CPR. CPR, their heart is now functioning as it should, and there's no point in doing that anymore. The next condition would be if, let's see, I'm trying to think about the order. If you, for a child, you're going to do the same thing, check for a carotid. For an infant, and I don't have infant mannequins, I'm sorry, they have a pulse here on the inside of their arm. It's called the brachial. That is the you can actually feel it on yourself too if you push hard on the inside of your arm. It's way easier to find on little infants, which is why they do it. As well as their airways are so small that if you start putting your hand up here, you can actually bleed it. So you kind of stay away from their neck. So after she's done that 10-second check and she's determined that there isn't a pulse and there's not breathing, she's going to start doing compressions. So she's demonstrating it. Go for it. So as you can see, she's doing a different form. Her hand is up here. The reason for that is if a child has basically too small a body to fit both your hands on, it's just another way to remain stable. It's not necessary completely. It's just an optional thing for somebody that size. Since she's alone, she's going to be doing 30 to 2, which is when you're doing single respirator CPR, it is always 30 to 2. It doesn't change unless there's multiple people for a kid, and I'll talk about that in a bit. So after she's done 15 compressions, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, wait, no, go to 30. I don't know why I counted off 15. I was happening. Go to 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. And then she's going to do 2, and she would do that a total of 5 times, then call 911. Since you guys work in this instance and you were dealing with a child like a student, it's likely that you wouldn't have to do that. You could probably just say, hey, go get some help, and you could continue on with what you were doing. So in the event that there's 2 rescuers, this is getting more into like higher level, like healthcare-esque type stuff, but because of the lack of equipment and infrastructure going down in the center of the chest like that, but for a child or an infant, you're going to do 15 to 2 basically. So she's going to start off by doing 15. And you might have to take your hands off a little bit. Breathe, and then go. So that will take no longer than 10 seconds, and the benefit is kids are more sensitive to the oxygen things, so they recommend you basically you breathe twice as often as you would before if it was 30. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay. And we don't have AEDs, but if we did, we would use that as soon as possible, turn it on, do what it says, it'll walk you through everything. Okay, so the conditions are still the same as to when you stop. The good thing about Chuuk is this, and then you say, okay, I'm gonna help you. You basically identify yourself, you identify your problem, then you'll move, position yourself into a system. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna come up behind them. And then you might have to do it for them if they're not moving. You're going to go ahead and you're going to place your leg or whatever you're most stable in between them. That's doing a few things for you. A, you're getting your hip into them, and you don't want to like completely go obliquely, but you're making yourself stable, and you're giving yourself a good position so that you can do forceful thrusts. You're also, in the event that they fall unconscious, you're in a position of control to bring them safely down to the ground. So instead of them just going down, you have your leander and you can kind of guide them down, and then move on to the next step, and then we'll talk about it a bit. So we're going to come up, they're choking, we've established that. You get your leg in place correct. You're going to take your lead hand. I use my right, you can use his left if he wants. He's going to make a fist, thumb, going to basically touch their belly button, close in, and that's where you find it. You're gonna cover your other top of your hand with your other hand, and you're going to go in and up. What you're trying to do is you're trying to basically get under the rib cage and stimulate the diaphragm, which is like the big breathing muscle, and you're trying to use that to force air that's still in the lungs to push that obstruction out of their airway. So what they kind of recommend now, depending on who you, again, Red Cross or Heart Association, some say just keep doing this until it comes out. The Red Cross now basically says to do about 5 of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And these aren't real. It would be much deeper and up. It's just to do that on a person who doesn't need it is quite uncomfortable. And you're trying to basically get the wind knocked out of them, right? It's the same sensation where you know. At that point, after you do 5, they basically say place them forward on your non-dominant hand. So the reason why you're doing this, you're not unconscious. So the reason why we're saying to do this is you're using gravity, right? Instead of being up here trying to get obstruction out, you're forward and using gravity. You just can't really do that and do the things, so that's why they say for this one. With your other hand, in between the shoulder blades, feel the hand just like CPR. 5 pretty forceful back blows. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's sort of, you hit and strike up, basically. And you'll basically alternate between these abdominal thrusts and the back blows until one of 2 things happens. They'll pop it out, which is what you want, and you just pretty much save their life, so good for you. Or you can't clear it. And at that point, they will go unresponsive from lack of oxygen to their brain, and you will assist them to the ground. Which, then now, what do you do now? How do you do chest thrusts on somebody who's unresponsive? I'll let you do it. You're going to open the airway, and you're going to look inside. And if inside that mouth, you can clearly see the obstruction, at that point, it's okay to do a finger sweep. And when I say that, basically go in the mouth, go to the object, take it out. What you cannot do is if you know they were choking, you open the airway, you can't see it still. You cannot blindly do a finger sweep. You can't basically try curving around their throat, trying to grab it, because the concern would be you're going to force it further down their throat and make it harder for yourself. So if there's nothing in there, you can attempt 2 ventilations, so 1, 2. I know it seems counterproductive, like why are you trying to push air? They might push you down, but realistically they want to try to get some ventilation and then use the compressions to try to get it out. So do 2 ventilations. So 1, 2, and then move straight into 30 compressions. And you're basically going to, at this point, make sure, see like somebody's coming on the way, like 911, and continue this. By the time he's done with his 30, before he breathes, he's going to look back in there, see if he can get it out, and then continue. Ideally, if he does now see it, what he can do is he sees it now, so he's going to remove that, and then he's going to go straight into basically like a life check, right? So he's going to open the airway, check for a pulse, and see if they're breathing. If they have their pulse still, which hopefully they do, and they're not breathing, rest your breath. If they don't have pulse or breathing, back into CPR. That's basically how that would work. For a child, it's the same deal, except they're obviously shorter. So it's the same motions, except you're going to want to get on the level. So if they're about this tall, I would take a knee, and I would come down there. I'll show how you do it on infants in a moment. Another consideration would be if somebody is too round around the midsection that you cannot get your arms across, you could be overweight or pregnancy is a thing, you can do chest thrusts. So you can basically move your hands higher, so about kind of that sternum level where you do the CPR and do them in the chest too. So that would be the alternative. Gravity to help you clear that obstruction. You'll do 5 compressions, so those 2 fingers, and in the same spot as you would on them for normal CPR. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you flip over, 1 back blow. mouths, like we did on the big person. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Flip over, check in the airway. Their mouths are so small. If you're doing anything with that, you have to be very careful that you're not shoving things down in that. So that's very, hopefully, when you're doing a back blow or something like that, you just see it fall on the floor on your boot or something like that. That's the idea that you want. But you'll come back over, check the airway, and continuously do this. For mouth to mouth with an infant, you don't necessarily, you can cover both your mouth, their mouth, and their nose with your mouth. They're usually small enough for that, so you don't have to like pinch and that sort of thing. They do make pocket-sized masks for little babies, but those are kind of few and far between. I'm sorry that we don't have that mannequin. It's just not something that was available to us, so this is kind of what I have to make do with. I know it's a little silly. That is CPR. Let's see. Roll it up. It's kind of weird because I've already done it. Now it has creases. Something like this. And the goal is I'm making something long and flat. It's about 2 inches across, something like that. You don't want to use something like a shoestring or something skinny, because what you'll find is that will just dig into their skin and basically cause more bleeding. It won't control the bleeding. So something like this. You're going to need two things like this. Broken, but you want something that's strong. But that's one of the parts of these tourniquets is that they're very painful. So it's probably going to hurt them more than what was actually the wound was doing, but it's also going to control that bleed. So after the point, you'll do a couple passes. Wrists, you know it's working.